Welcome. Today's video is a video I never thought I'd make. So how to skate a flat skateboard and why. So first, let's get into what defines a flat skateboard. So there's a few things that can make a skateboard feel flat. So first off is the pitch of the kicks. So your kicks can be up or down by 1 or 2 degrees. And just 1 or 2 or maybe a few degrees makes actually a pretty big difference into how your board feels. The next way that a board can feel flat is also the concave, so the dish of your board going straight across there. And another way that your deck can feel pretty flat is by having a short wheelbase. So shrinking your wheels in like that and making so what we call the fingers of flat here bigger. So the more space you have between the bolt and where the nose and tail starts to go up, the flatter and sort of lighter your board is going to feel when you're trying to pop your tricks. So all of those can contribute to the feeling of having quite a flat deck. So let's take a look at this board, for example. And this is actually a beautifully balanced skateboard, but it's pretty short. It's 31.5 and it has a 14-inch wheelbase, which is a pretty short wheelbase, but not really for this deck. But it also has, I would say, a mellow to medium mellow kick. So it's not as flat as they come. It's somewhere between a medium kick and a mellow kick. And for me, that's actually pretty flat because historically I've never skated flat decks. The reason I never skated flat decks is because I always used to just think that flat skateboards were just bad skateboards. So I always enjoyed boards with more concave and with a steeper kick. I could get more pop and my foot felt more locked in on the board, and it also helped me flip my tricks over a little bit faster. However, now that I'm older and I don't have quite the same spring in my legs as I did when I was a kid, I'm starting to actually appreciate a flatter skateboard. It makes the front of the board feel lighter, like I said, and that just helps me have a longer session because I'm not using so much energy to kick down on the nose or tail. But like I said, I never liked flat skateboards until I got this one piece of information from somebody in the comments. And I'm kind of amazed that I've been skateboarding for 25 years and have never heard this. But what he said is that in order to skate a flatter skateboard, you have to move your foot in a bit, which actually makes total sense. Because I was used to having my foot on the outer edge of the board because I've always skated steep decks. And one thing you need to know about a flatter skateboard is the band of strength in a flat skateboard is, so a steep board, it goes right out to the tail. You can feel it stiff and it doesn't flex too much across the middle when you stand on the outside of the tail. But on a flat deck, when you stand on the outside, you can feel it feels soggy. It's not the same as a stiff deck, which is why I always thought they were bad decks. But what you do, again, is just move your foot in like a 1/4 of an inch to pop your tricks. So think about that. It's a leverage thing, right? And it helps the timing work right on a flat deck. When my foot is on the back and I kick down, it's gonna make the front of the deck feel really light. And the closer in I move my foot to the bolts, the heavier it's gonna make the front of the board, just by the basics of physics and leverage, right? The way I said that sounded really dumb. Anyways, so first off, to get your attention back, let's have a little flat ground session and see if I really can skate this pretty flat deck on Indy 144s with some pretty big 52mm wheels that used to be 54mm classics, so they're wide and pretty heavy. So I got a heavy truck and a fairly heavy wheel on this pretty small deck. I landed the first one, I eat it on the next 3. Man, I should know when to quit. I think it's because I just told some kid that he was okay after he took a big bail, but he started crying, so maybe a little karma. Let's try again. Okay, so I can do a few tricks on this, but what about tricks that have historically been more difficult for me on flat decks? So I'm talking frontside flips, 360 flips, hard flips. Let's see if I can handle any of those. So a big part of what's making that work is the fact that I've got Indy standards on, so they're tall, 55mm high, and a bigger wheel on than I'm used to riding. So that's actually helping me get the scoop and the leverage that I need, where I usually lost it on flat decks. Also, I changed the form a tiny bit. So I'm actually hard flipping my frontside flips just a tiny bit. Woo! I'm still struggling a little bit on the switch ones. I haven't refined my form there yet. We'll try a couple and then move on to the 360 flips and hard flips. Whoa! Those aren't going to get much better. I definitely prefer those on a steep deck. So my 360 flips have actually been much improved by riding a taller truck and a shorter wheelbase, so that's been nice. The flat deck's not hindering me at all on those. If anything, it might be helping because I don't have to pop that hard and I'm not getting any ghost pop. And ghost pop, for those of you who don't know, is when your tail doesn't hit the ground. So when you do a trick before your nose or tail hits the ground. I can even occasionally accomplish a switch one on these hefty trucks and wheels, but don't expect anything great here. I'm only giving it a couple tries. Good enough for how I feel today. So the hard flips are definitely one of the ones that really surprised me that those came back on a flatter deck. But again, tall trucks and bigger wheels really help with flat boards. So I'm also not struggling getting onto taller ledges. As soon as I learned about that trick to move my foot just like a 1/4 inch in, all of a sudden getting onto tall ledges wasn't a problem before, whereas historically getting that extra oomph to get onto the tall ledge with a flat deck was super hard for me. That needs wax. But actually, if anything, it's almost easier to get onto the taller ledges now because again, I'm not losing energy from having a nose or tail that's too steep and making me have to kick so hard. Another thing we haven't got into is manuals. Having a flatter board makes manuals easier, more control. You have a broader space right here to place your foot. On a really steep deck, you have to have your foot closer up to the nose to hold your manuals nicely, and flat ones is just a nice little pocket right there. You could just kind of hold and adjust. So let's see if I've sacrificed pop on my flip tricks or if I can still get them up onto ledges and over things. Alright, that's about all the juice I got left in me for the day. Pretty foggy, but I hope this at least illustrates the point that it's just a simple change in technique that's all that's required to be able to skate a flatter skateboard. So this deck, the real full SE, is about the maximum I can take in terms of like going to flatness, and this is a medium mellow, not a mellow. So I hope you find this useful. I mean, I'm sure you've had that experience where you've bought a board and it's not at all to your taste. And you know what? You can get used to it. It's either you need to change your trucks or change your form. There's a variety of ways that you can adapt to different types of decks and different types of setups. So if even this old dog can learn how to skate a flat board, I'm sure you can too. So I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. May your next session be your best session yet.